Hello there and welcome to this week's Granny's Garden. Now this week we're going to be tackling a big problem, or maybe you could say a tall problem, namely this tree that you can see here over my shoulder. Now this tree is a black alder or a European alder. It normally lives about 60 years and this is about 30 years old, so it's about halfway through its life cycle. It's really tall. These can reach 28 meters tall, which is a whopping 90 plus feet tall. Far too big for a small urban garden. When I first arrived in this property, in my notebook the first thing I put was this tree had to be taken out. There's nothing I could do to save it. And I was concentrating my efforts on plants that can be saved or have a possibility of being saved, and this is just completely beyond salvation. And I'll show you the signs I was looking for. Now the trunk of this tree and the entire limbs up to the top are covered in fungus. Now this is a sure sign that the bark is dead, and the fungus, Mother Nature's taking over and is decomposing the dead bark. And if you can see here, you just lift this off with your hand. And if I come up close, not only can you see the fungus on the outside of the bark, but if I flip it over, you can see it's also on the inside. So extremely fragile. There's just no comeback from this. Now the next thing I noticed, I'll need my glasses for this, and hopefully you'll be able to see it. This tree is covered in hundreds of little holes, which means there are borers inside this tree. Now this is an alder tree, so the culprit is going to be the long-horned alder borer beetle. As an adult, it's quite a nice little bug actually. It's sort of black and white or grey and white striped, and its adult form is really quite pretty. So about the month of April, May, the adult takes off, mates, and then it looks for a dying or dead branch, and then lays its eggs. 2 weeks later, these eggs hatch, and the larva, which is nothing like its mother and father, it's quite an ugly little, an ugly little thing, bores inside the wood and locates itself just behind or just underneath the bark. It doesn't go any further into the tree. For the moment, it just goes underneath the bark. And there it munges and eats away at the tree for about 6 months. And then closer to winter, it goes further into the tree, and there it spends its winter as a pupae. And then next year, the adult will chew its way out, and the whole cycle will begin all over again. The borers are secondary, they are not primary. The tree has to be in a bad condition first before the borers are attracted. What was the original cause of the death of this tree? The fungus is just a sign that the tree was already dead. The borers are a sign that they're infesting secondary, a tree that was already dying or decaying. The original cause, well, it was probably Phytophthora, which is taking out most of the alder trees in Europe. Whatever the cause, there's no coming back from it. This tree was a goner from the beginning, so according to my notebook, it had to be taken out. Well, as I've said, this was on my to-do list, but it wasn't very high up the list. But over the last 4 or 5 weeks, something that has developed that I don't like at all, that has really bumped us up to the top of the list. And that was some of the heavier limbs have developed vertical cracks. And those cracks are quite substantial in some areas. Now we're coming into late autumn, winter here, and of course I live in the mountains, so we get these windstorms, quite spectacular windstorms. Now a dead tree with these type of cracks is dangerous now. It can come crashing down either on my dogs, on me, and also due to the close proximity to the fence, it could come crashing down on my neighbour's property, or God forbid, on my neighbour's. So this tree needs to be taken out now. Tools: a pruning saw, a very long ladder, a chainsaw, my mini chainsaw. Oh, very important, one husband. That huge branch was done with my little new beastie. Have you seen the size of this? That was done with my mini chainsaw. empieza a mover mucho. I will, of course, make good use of everything we've cut, right from the smallest little twigs to start off a fire, to the medium-sized one, right up until the big, huge ones are going to be used this winter in my log-burning fire. So, waste not, want not. As gardeners, we tend to probably look more towards plants and flowers. Our eyes are drawn towards them. They're very, very pretty. But I certainly recommend keeping an eye on trees at least once a month. Just have a look at them. The general aspect, the canopy, the trunk, and to be able to nip any problem in the bud before it gets out of hand. It's also worthwhile knowing the lifespan of the trees you have in your garden, because not everything lives 500 years like an olive tree or an oak tree. Something like an ornamental cherry tree might have a lifespan about 30 years. So if you suddenly find that it's not as full as it used to be or not as pretty as it used to be, it's not the fact that it's sick, it's just that simply it's getting old and just may need to be replaced. However, if you start seeing other signs, like maybe half the tree is nice and green and you start getting one side of the tree that's not sprouting green growth, then there is a problem. If you see fungus on the bark or the beginning of fungus on the bark or holes in the tree, as soon as you see anything that's not normal or not normal for you, nip it in the bud. How do I know if a branch is healthy or not? Well, there are several ways. A healthy branch is in its dormant stage. A healthy branch is going to have lots and lots of lovely buds just waiting to burst into bloom or burst into leaf next year, or into flower as the case may be. This, from this tree, not a healthy branch. No buds present, and if I did a scrape test, which I'm going to show you in a minute, it would also show that this tree is dead, or this twig is dead. And there's one very obvious way. Listen. Dead as a dodo. The scrape test is the easiest. Healthy branch. Knife or whatever you've got on hand. I've got some snips here, so they'll just have to do. Scrape along it. Hope you can see that now. Inside, beautiful, green, healthy. Branch is healthy. Tree is alive. Twig off the tree I've just cut down. Ooh, dry as a bone this is. Totally brown. Totally dead. And if you see it on the inside, totally dry. We need to make sure that we don't forget about our poor trees. They also need some tender, loving care. It's a big investment, a tree, both in time, money and energy. Plants, you can get a plant maybe for €2, €3, €5, but any type of decent tree, you're talking about a sizable amount of money. So it's worthwhile investing time and energy into making sure it's as healthy as your plants. They need that fertilizer once a year. They need you to keep an eye on them, to prune out the branches so that they remain open and the air can circulate and it remains a healthy tree. Keep an eye on them, and as soon as you see anything wrong, remotely wrong, a tiny bit of fungus, don't confuse it with lichen, because lichen grows on healthy trees. Lichen, healthy trees, fungus, unhealthy trees. Just keep that in mind and you'll be okay. Okay, so I've got a lot of trees in this garden, 30 of them, and when I came into this garden, some of them were goners, some of them were less goners, and some of them are recuperating very, very nicely. So we'll have plenty of time to discuss other types of trees and other types of problems in further editions. For the moment, from me, I'll see you next week, next Friday, here in Granny's Garden. Bye-bye now.